Could it be? Could it be? It is out of here!
And it's a no-hitter! Unbelievable! Ruiz and Halladay embrace!
Champion!
It is bedlam at the bank as Bryce Harper has put the Phillies on top!
We're talking about the Lions here.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Specific Jawns podcast, where we talk Phillies baseball. And there's a lot to talk about this week. Fewer people than we normally have to talk about it, though. Two-man episode today, so we're gonna be getting into some things. Our good friend Carl Bacuti unable to join us this evening, so I am Pat Barker. This is my co-host for the night, Mike Sambuco, all-star Mike Sambuco, fresh off of all the events, not just the All-Star game, not just the Derby, the Futures game, the Celebrity game, the Fan Fest, the whatever other events there were in Philadelphia All-Star weekend. This man was there for all of them, and I can't wait to hear about it. Mike, how's it going, man?
Great. I'm still riding that high. I mean, it was when in Rome. You gotta attend everything you can when they're in town once every 30 years. So took advantage of it with the fam and some friends, and it was a blast.
What was the full itinerary, real quick, of everything that you did?
Yeah, so we took advantage of the All-Star Village on Saturday. We spent the whole morning with the girls, wife and the kids. We got there with the early access ticket, thinking, oh, this is great. We'll get some time before everybody gets there, and the lines are massive. Well, there was a line wrapped around the convention center 2 blocks long to get in before 9. So that didn't go as planned, but I ended up going back with a buddy on Tuesday before the All-Star game, and the lines were a lot more manageable that day. Best part, I'll just go quickly on that one, because the best part was the virtual reality home run derby. Not everything you could do without like a special reservation or ticket. Talked to the lady at the front of the line. She was like, reservations are kind of dying down. We'll let you in on this one. We ended up striking a conversation with her, and she's been doing these types of activations like for 30 years. She used to work for the Texas Rangers and just goes to every All-Star game doing this. So like future me, that's the life. Retirement plan for sure. Anyway, the next day we went to the Futures game.
Wait,
took the girls.
Back it up 1 second. So you participated in a virtual home run derby?
Virtual home run derby. Put the headset on. I think it's the MetaQuest.
Sure.
And you get given a bat, and it has a little sensor on the end of the bat, and you get a minute and a half worth of pitches. So that home run derby was timed. I ended up getting 4th out of the whole weekend, and that was, very impressive from my standing as a slender stature, 5'9", 145-pound man, winning in my mind, top 4, getting on the leaderboard. I'll take that. So that was pretty cool, just because I did well. There was also plenty of giveaways, but the best giveaway was at the home run derby. I got one of the big gloves.
I see
that
it.
thing is twice the size of my head. My girls actually have used, because we got 2, one Lauren got and one I got. The girls have been using them as chairs, so it may not be in a next video. We'll see. Jumping ahead, because I did skip over the Futures game. I will say the Futures game was cool to be at, just because Gage Wood started. And then after that, it was just like everybody's just there for the event, not paying attention to the game. So it was pretty low key, not really an exciting game either. Very much like the actual All-Star game, but it was only 7 innings, which was like I didn't know that going into it, but they tried to get as many of the pitchers in, I guess, and still did well. We did not stay for the MLBX event, which is what Ryan Howard, Shane Victorino, and Jimmy Rollins participated in. But that sounded like it was kind of like a fast-paced home run derby kind of thing. So watch some of the highlights of that. It would seem pretty cool. on Monday, Lauren and I took ourselves to the home run derby. We got those gloves, as I mentioned, but that event was incredible. The lead up with the intros was really cool. Wasn't a huge fan of the Will Ferrell combo introductions, but everything else was fantastic. The I will say, trigger warning for everybody listening, it felt like 2011 leaving the stadium after the Cardinals crushed your hopes then, just as Jordan Walker did on Monday, beating the favored Philly at the time, Kyle Schwarber. Didn't think he was going to hit 5 or 6 in a row at the end, and he obviously did.
Yeah.
That was just... although some may say there's an asterisk because maybe he didn't use magenta ball for all of those at the end.
I'm a magenta ball truther. We got to get to the bottom of this, man. Like
we really do. There needs to be an investigation. I think they need to take away the $1 million paycheck and just distribute it to the fans. Kyle Schwarber doesn't need it.
I think that's totally fair. I think it's ridiculous. And then obviously you close out the weekend with the All-Star game. We're going to get there in a minute. I do want to touch like a little bit more in detail on the Derby and the All-Star game before we jump into Phillies second half kind of stuff. I thought the Derby was great. Watching on TV, and of course the nature of the business that I'm in, and I'm not even really at liberty to say what, but I contributed in some small way to the Derby on Monday on the TV side of things. But I was, of course, in addition to just watching the Derby as a fan, really interested to see what people had to say about Netflix and their production and everything like that. People were very upset about the camera angles and some things like that. I didn't find it quite as jarring as everyone else. I understand why they did. The Will Ferrell thing, there's no way those lines should have been broadcast to the stadium. I couldn't believe, and the audio, I don't know if you guys could even hear it. It was hard to hear on TV.
It was not easy to hear. It's funny, I made the same Junior joke about Junior Caminero to my friend the next day, and he was like, did you just make that up yourself, or did you hear that last night? And I was like, nope, I didn't.
Yeah, the audio on that segment was terrible, and frankly, that should have just been a thing where, the home audience was treated to the comedic stylings of Will Ferrell and company. Found it very weird that they did that kind of in the arena, or the stadium rather. But that being said, apart from maybe a couple of technical notes that Netflix could take for next time, I think there is some truth in the camera angle thing. It's not quite the disaster for me that other people seem to think. I thought it was the best Derby we've seen in a long time. I thought
go for it.
And the stars, by the way, were you and 43,000 of your friends who were there. The stars was that Philadelphia crowd. That was, to me, the best representation of what Philadelphia is. I thought they leaned into the booing everything in like a tongue-in-cheek kind of way that you can't get away with in something that actually, air quotes, matters. But it's a spectacle, and Philadelphia was the most Philadelphia they could possibly be in booing anything that moved and wasn't wearing a Phillies jersey. And the passion, you're not going to get that ever again for a home run derby. I thought it was incredible. What was it like in the building?
It truly was incredible in the building. I mean, you got an experience being there. I'm sure it translated through the TV as well on Netflix, but it really, I haven't felt that level of enthusiasm since 2022 during like the first postseason run back at CBP. And it was, I keep thinking back to the intros and like how well received Harper and Schwarber were, and then it just, everything built on that. Like everybody went into the Derby knowing that our hometown guys were participating and we were going to have their backs no matter what. I also am curious of how it would have been if there were no Phillies participating? Like, would we have been as into it? Would it have been more of like a let's pick our random guy who we really like? I also really appreciated like how Jordan Walker just like stepped up and owned it, and his family loved everything about it. Like, usually you get the opposite reaction from family members when that type of stuff happens, but he owned that villain role to the point where like I kind of want him on my team now. Like like that's the kind
Yeah.
of guy I want. Speaking of right field outfield bats, um, I don't think that's happening, by the way. But it was like with the chains and like just his facial reactions to everything. He was all in that villain role. It gave me like super Rocky vibes of like going after the hometown guy, and
Yeah.
it was fun. But
Ironically enough, he was Rocky in Philadelphia. Schwarber was, Apollo. Schwarber was
yeah,
favorite. And if you're Jordan Walker, you just kind of want to go the distance. He went on an insane run. The footage of his parents in the crowd was unbelievable. They embraced it. I thought all the non-Philly players did a pretty good job of embracing it. Contreras, when they threw, and I don't know if this got away from the pitcher or if this was like a bit, but when he threw the one up and in on Contreras and the crowd cheered, I thought that was incredible. I just thought it was the best representation of what Philadelphia is, that fan base. And, from a viewing perspective, doing away with the clock did wonders. You got
the
to watch
format.
every ball and process what happened and, enjoy it and take it in. I loved it without the clock. What were your thoughts on that?
In stadium it was perfect, and I read something like it was like 150-ish home runs compared to like 250 home runs the year before, or something along those lines, like dramatic decrease. Didn't matter. Like, we were on the edge of our seats for every home run the entire time it was in flight, because you could let it soak in, you could let the stadium breathe a bit. You could take a pitch, and everybody was taking those magenta ball pitches because like it was hard to see. Clearly, nobody was getting a good read on it. Fouling balls off in a home run derby just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But the format to me was perfect, except I will gripe: the semifinals should not be bracketed 1v4 and 2v3. You should just have the top two and the semifinals advance. Like, that to me just doesn't make sense. That could get to a situation where like 1 and 4 hit 2 and 1, and then 2 and 3 hit 15 and 16, and you're like, why didn't those two guys just advance?
Yeah.
That's gonna happen one year.
I think that's valid, and I think there are tweaks that could be made. But I would take the 150 home runs that you could appreciate over 250 that you
Absolutely
really forget about.
Absolutely.
I've said before, I was at the 2022 Derby in LA. I don't remember a single home run that was hit. Not one home run stands out to me. I couldn't even tell you who was in it. I just remember Schwarber underperformed and Soto won. And I think Julio Rodriguez put on a shot. Other than that, it all just blended together. It was all just like rapid fire. Oh, another home run. Okay, home run. I thought this was way better. I thought that was the highlight of the weekend. The actual
absolutely on the field, that was the winner. Jack Cags getting into the third deck. Contreras hitting bombs to parts of the second deck and left field that you never saw before, like making it look easy to get to the last row in the second deck, making it even feasible that like, oh, he might actually hit the scoreboard. And then there were, I think Harper hit one onto Ashburn Alley, so we got some like big bombs from the Phils.
I'll tell you this, I love that unintentionally they have preserved the sanctity of the third deck in right field. A spot that only Ryan Howard twice has ever gone. And we came into this derby, and I expected Schwarber to hit 4 or 5 up there. I thought Harper
Murakami was going to. He actually hit one in batting practice before the All-Star game into the third deck.
Did he? Yeah.
Yeah, and not like down the line. He did it like in section 301, 302.
Jesus. I remember the one Bonds hit off of, at the time he hit it off of John Lieber. It was like a McDonald's billboard, like right on the facing of the third deck, and he hit that, but he was in right center. And I was like, That's the most impressive thing
That was
I've
where
ever seen.
Murakami hit it. It was
But yeah, the righties
batting
were
practice, but
teeing
like
off
still.
back towards the Harry the K Ghost Energy deck, and making it look easy. The Derby was the highlight of the weekend to me. The actual All-Star game, I stand by, the stance I was taking kind of leading up to it. If you're there, I think it's a cool thing. And just to, say you were there, but the actual game, minus the first inning, which as a Phillies fan was hard to enjoy because it was Sanchez getting lit up. What a snooze fest.
I said to Carl, coincidentally, because I was sitting with Carl and two of my other friends, I've seen this game 50 times, and the Phillies have always lost that game. I'm leaving Citizens Bank Park thinking, man, they got, 3 hits? That's no fun. I don't.
Yeah.
It was. Everything else was fun though. Like
Sure.
getting there 3 hours before first pitch, just watching batting practice, having fun. Getting to see the introductions, the Star Spangled Banner, the flyover, the 4 paratroopers that jumped out of the plane to deliver the first pitch. Seeing Steve Carlton throw to Cole Hamels, seeing Mike Schmidt underhand it to Scott Rowland. I mean, it was everything about it was the pomp and circumstance of just being there for this event that happens once every 30 years. And I would have kicked myself for decades, literally, had I not gone. And that's a shot at Carl if he ever thinks that he regrets going.
Well, listen, you got to do it just to check it off. If I got word tomorrow, that I could go to the Field of Dreams game, and they said, but just so you know, we looked into the future, the Phillies are going to lose 10-0 and get 2 hit. I'm there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm there. You just got to do the thing. And you left out the Sandlot recreation, which was incredible.
Remarkable. Yeah, so being in center field, you get the good shot of them entering in the right field corner on the bikes, and you're like, is this what I think it is? And then it kind of clicks in a couple seconds later, and you're like, oh my God, they're doing it. This is awesome. You see Freddie Freeman having a catch with the kid. You see everybody just all the other kids talking to their players that they're with, and it's just, you find out later that they're all just like normal kids. They're not actors. They're just like kids that played baseball growing up and somehow got selected for this. And that's what you want. Like, you make these kids lives like that. That would, as a kid, I would have been on cloud 9 for the rest of my childhood.
Yeah, dude. I thought that was I thought it was all great. I thought it was all great. The actual game is always destined to be bad, I feel like, just because the 30th best pitcher is so much better than the 30th best hitter. That you look at these, the All-Star game every year, I feel like is 3-1, 2-1, 4-2. It's like,
and this year unfortunately, you had a roster of players that didn't play in the All-Star game better than the actual rosters.
It's, and this is part of a bigger discussion that I do want to have. We're a little bit pressed for time today, and we do have to talk some Phillies baseball at some point. But they have to find a way to incentivize, and maybe this is part of the next collective bargaining agreement. Obviously, if you're a Phillies fan, a lot of the talk was about Zach Wheeler going in. But even beyond the Zach Wheeler thing, you're at a game now where Judge is hurt, Ohtani opts out, Yamamoto goes but is unavailable to pitch, Paul Skeens drops out, and I know there were more, but there was a lot of star power, either not in the building or there and just kind of watching from the sidelines, which is tough. Say what you want, people shit on the NBA All-Star game because nobody plays defense. At least they get out on the field. Or, the court. I think baseball needs to figure out something to, because I think that's an even bigger problem than, the fans voted in a guy based off of name value and he's not actually playing. It's like the fans voted for him because they want to see him there. And for the guys that the fans really want there the most to not play, it sucks and it's a slippery slope. I think baseball needs to figure that out.
Yeah, and you have people like Buster Olney saying the All-Star game's in a precarious spot. And I'm like, that might be a bit much, but I understand where he's coming from. The concern around, you have the most marketable names not playing in the All-Star game, whether it was injury related or just rest related or pitching on Sunday. And yeah, you want to be able to market the All-Star game so that it's got the biggest names in it, but at the same time, you have a 162 game season where everybody is just pressed to win the World Series. And you look at the legacies of the players long term, they're focused on winning the World Series. And this is just kind of a blip on the radar. They can check a box saying that they were an all-star, but do they really care if the game is won or lost? No.
And that being said, and I'm glad we didn't record an episode last week because I had thoughts on the Zach Wheeler situation that I'm totally fine with not really getting into. But I will say, regardless of how I felt about anything that he or Major League Baseball or anything did, after watching him pitch on Sunday, boy, was I glad he was not out there on Tuesday throwing again. I think we kind of got the best case scenario out of that situation. He feels disrespected, whether it's warranted or not, does not matter. In his head, it is, and he feels like he needs to take it out on the rest of the league, and he got to take a few days off as well. So I think that all kind of worked out.
I am firmly on the Zach Wheeler for Cy Young boat yet again. Let's see it happen. He's pissed off. He feels slighted. I want him to use that as motivation for the rest of the year, and obviously into October as well, which I never have concerns about. But he's the type of guy. Clearly, after the first start when he got snubbed, he threw 14K performance against. Yeah, I mean that's what you want to see. But I love that guy. I will go to war for that guy metaphorically, and I support him in his decision to not go to the All-Star game. But I obviously was disappointed that he said he didn't want to do it because he felt like it was a slight. It was too late.
Yeah. Thank you for adding metaphorically. I'm going to be very clear. I would go to war for Zach Wheeler literally. If he wanted me to bomb another country, I would do it tomorrow. That's how much I love that man and everything he's given to the Philadelphia Phillies. So that's the All-Star recap. Let's get into where the Phillies are at now a few days after the All-Star game. As we record this, and look, my first question the whole vibe of the question could change based on the outcome of tonight's game. They're up 4-1 on the Dodgers, top of the sixth inning. Dodgers have 2 on with 1 out. Orion Kerkering is on in relief, so Sanchez did not give them a bunch of length today. Held the Dodgers at bay, but Kerkering is pitching to Max Muncy, according to my Gamecast, and the Phillies are up 4-1. I wrote this question today before the game started, and, look, a win over the Dodgers can change things, but coming out of the All-Star game, you have kind of the weird black cloud of the Wheeler thing, but it felt like it was a really good weekend for Philadelphia and for the Phillies, even though they didn't win anything. And then you come out and you lose 2 out of 3 to the Mets. And now you look ahead and you're like, well, we got 3 against the Dodgers and 3 against the Yankees before we kind of go on the road and face one of the teams hot on our heels, the Marlins, who are playing out of their minds recently. The trade deadline is coming up. I think it's become more apparent than ever that the Phillies need help in the bullpen, in the rotation at this point, and certainly they could stand to get another right-handed bat in the lineup. This has been a season of vibes. The vibes were so negative the first few weeks of the season with Rob Thompson. Then the vibes were so positive when Mattingly took over, and I felt like we rode those positive vibes into the All-Star break. Now, 1-2 against the Mets with 6 coming up against the Dodgers and Yankees. I feel like we are in real danger of a vibe shift. What are your thoughts on this? Where do you think that they're at coming out of the break?
Generally speaking, every time they don't hit, it feels like the vibes are off. And that's just how baseball works sometimes, because like you look at crowd reactions, especially in the playoffs. The Phillies have struggled when they're not hitting because the crowd can't get animated, they can't get into the game. It's harder to do so when you're in a pitcher's duel. And it kind of is the same way in the dugout as well. When things aren't going well offensively, there's not as much to cheer for, because there's not that rah mentality of sorts in when you're in the field and you're cheering on your pitcher who's pitching well, because you're not together. You're all isolated in your positions. So hitting's contagious in that sense that it's not only good for the team and the offensive performance, it's good for that like team vibe as well. And when this offense struggles, it just looks so down, and in like everybody's just like looking like they're, I don't know, think of a good metaphor for
It's
me.
a tough team to watch when they're not playing well. It is a brutally unfun team to watch when things are not, going well. And I understand that vibe and performance are a chicken and the egg kind of thing, and I get it. But I feel like we are reaching the point where it's like, okay, the Mattingly thing was an injection of life into the team. I feel like with the deadline coming up, this is their chance to perform a similar type of injection by bringing in some new talent, because I don't think it's coming up from AAA.
I agree with you there. I do think that it would provide, like, a big move would provide the spark that this team needs, especially if it's on the offensive side. And I just don't know how they're going to do it. Are they going to massively inflate their payroll and just take on a big contract and give back little to nothing in terms of prospect capital because they don't have much to give? Or are they actually going to go all in and trade some of their big pieces? And really, like, for me, the pieces that they have to trade are Gage Wood, like, that are like high value, or Gage Wood and Francisco Renteria. I do not want to trade Francisco Renteria. He's that good in my mind, of like, he could be the next star player that we need in the outfield. But he's just so far away that you have to at least consider it depending on what you're getting back. Gage is the guy that I'd rather just call up. Like, we have a clear need in the rotation and a clear need in the bullpen. If he can fill one of those holes, whether it's for the rest of the regular season and he's just running out of innings, great. Like, I'd rather him utilize those innings so that we can get some good, fifth starter spots, as opposed to having a complete dead hole in our rotation. I just don't see a better alternative.
Let me give you a couple names. You tell me if you recognize these names, if you know who these guys are. Hendry Mendez and Jeremy Villaria. Those are the guys we traded for Harrison Bader at the deadline last year. When I talk about an injection of life, I don't necessarily mean a bat that's going to transform the lineup. I would love that, but I know that that's going to be really hard to pull off for all the reasons you just listed. I think the pitching right now, the bullpen with Brad Keller definitively being out for the year, which is a terrible break, very consistent with Phillies history in terms of bringing in setup men. It never works. We talked about this a little bit via text today. You and I were spitballing off the top of our head a list of everybody from Tim Worrell to, you said Mike Adams, who I had completely forgotten about. Just historically, everybody they signed to be like, this is our eighth inning guy. It never, ever, ever works out, seemingly. David Robertson, who ended up having a really nice second act when they traded for him, but when they brought him in initially to be the eighth inning guy, he pitched 7 games in 2 years. Brad Keller looks like he's going to be
the same type of story.
Same type of story, right? So they obviously need help in the bullpen. I feel like that's going to be a little bit more gettable. The fifth starter we're going to talk about in a minute. I don't know what they're going to do for offense, but I went back and looked at that Bader deal because I'm like, that's what they need. They need somebody in the same way that, frankly, Derek Hill was an injection of life into this team. I never expected it, but they don't have to go out and trade for Aaron Judge or, a big superstar, but they got to get somebody in there that can help and just kind of like,
Yeah,
I'm a
I
firm
think
believer
rentals are
that,
going to be their friend this year in terms of minimizing the prospect cost.
yeah,
And I think they just have to suck up some of the money or all of the money in these deals so that they can minimize that cost. Uh, you look at, I mean, it's the Pirates, so take it for what it is. But there was a report out there saying they want to add pieces, but they don't want to add salary. Like they're afraid of paying anything else. But it's that's our competitive advantage as a big spending team. We need to maximize that while we can. Who knows what's going to happen after the CBA expires? But I mean, if there's one good thing to come out of the Keller injury, it's that you definitively know, as opposed to not knowing if he's going to come back well or not. Like before the injury, I was thinking, or the second injury, I was thinking he's going to come back at least as a serviceable seventh, eighth inning guy. Like, serviceable. Maybe he's good to great. Now we can't even say that. And, you needed 1 to 2 bullpen arms before that. And now you need even more, potentially.
yeah. I listen, I hear you, man. I would prefer choice number one is don't blow out your UCL. But if the options are doing it in the middle of July or the middle of August, I will take the middle of July every time. You know what you need to do now. You got to replace him. I, frankly, was not surprised because I was there in Milwaukee for what ended up being his next to last game, the last one before he went on the IL the first time. And that guy, he had no business being on a major league mound.
He had no command. I remember that game vividly. He had no command. We were lucky to get out of the inning he got out of. And you could tell he just wasn't right. And him going on the IL right after, or shortly thereafter, was not too surprising.
Yeah.
I am a little surprised they went down this road, but then again, I shouldn't have been.
Listen, whatever the case may be, they got to go out and they got to, bulk up the bullpen now because it's a big loss. It's a big loss almost more in theoretical value than literal value because I don't think Keller, certainly over the last month when he wasn't playing, he wasn't contributing anything, but I don't even feel like he had a very good year leading up to that. It felt like there was always traffic on the bases. I never trusted him in high leverage situations. He wasn't a disaster, but he certainly wasn't what I would want out of an elite eighth inning guy.
He had his good moments and bad, but you just felt more comfortable with him than pretty much everybody else in the bullpen after Duran. I mean, like, well, even Kerkering maybe, but
therein lies the problem. And we were talking about Kerkering, and when I brought him up, it was because I was giving you a live update. The Phillies were up 4-1. He was on the mound. It's now 4-3 in the bottom of the sixth. So I don't like the bullpen. I think they need to do some major overhauling. I would also be fine with calling up Gage Wood and giving him some innings in the bullpen. Throw something at the. You got to try something. And I would rather have those 5-3 on a Brandon Marsh homer. So we're back a little bit. If
starting
Brandon
to get
Marsh,
out of his slump, I hope.
If he can have a second half 80% as good as his first half, we'll be in good shape because Trey Turner, by my math, is 400% better than he was a month ago.
3 out of 4 games with a home run for Turner after the All-Star break. I'll take that at the very least. Not a. I mean, it's shaping up to be like a 2023 all over again, just without the standing O.
Yeah. He gave himself a standing O, I guess. He's figuring it out. He did make a brutal error in the first inning tonight. His fielding is still really, really tough to watch.
Part of the reason why Sanchez couldn't get into the sixth, I guess.
I know. But it's a killer. Hey, listen, while I have you here, because, you're our prospects guy. The Phillies called up Alex McFarland today. I believe it's his second call-up of the year, but he didn't get in any games the first time. So if he gets in a game, it will be his major league debut. He's just kind of an extra arm right now. after the bullpen got a little bit taxed, over the weekend. But I want to know what are your thoughts on McFarland, but also just that fifth starter spot in general. Is there any hope that the solution can be found internally, or do they have to go out and get somebody on the trade market?
I'll start with McFarland because I'm excited that they called him up. I don't know if it's going to be a long-term call-up or something just to fill the gap until they need a fifth starter again. But this is a guy who's hitting triple digits consistently and is a type of arm in the bullpen that could easily fill those late inning roles that we desperately need, which is why I don't understand why he hasn't been called up to AAA or even the majors before now. Like, we needed his arm. It's not like we had to DFA anybody to get him up here. He already was on the 40-man roster. Like, something doesn't make sense to me, whether they were trying to protect him as like prospect capital for the trade deadline, and at that point, why not just call him up and see what he has in the big leagues, because he was just mowing down AA hitters as their running closer. So I'm excited to see that, because I mean, I'll take any arm with a heartbeat at this point, but on the fifth starter side, it sounds like they're just trying to get through using off days into a 4-man rotation, and quite honestly, that's what they need to do until they trade for somebody, because whether it's just a bullpen piece, or a swingman that could go into the bullpen in the playoffs, which is like the ideal type of guy, serve that long man role, or like a 2-inning, 3-inning guy in the playoffs if needed. Like, that's what they need, so that they can get the fifth spot in the rotation covered for the rest of the regular season, and then actually be a useful piece potentially in the postseason. Because what they've done in the past couple years is their fifth starter hasn't touched a ball in the playoffs.
Yeah, should he?
They're just sitting in the back of the bullpen waiting for like an 18-inning game. And it just, like, find somebody that could be useful in both the regular season and the postseason, because they don't need one guy that does just the fifth starter for the rest of the regular season.
Especially when your fourth starter is Aaron Nola.
Yeah.
If you had
piggyback the two starters, in the playoffs, because you'll need a fourth starter in the DS.
Right, but they needed to use Aaron Nola, and they used him essentially as an opener last year in LA. He pitched 2 innings, and then Ranger Suarez came in and pitched 5 in relief, and it actually worked out. But the idea that, the fifth starter once we get to the playoffs, the playoffs is not guaranteed, so we should not be saying when we get to the playoffs. We should not be doing that. And if you, by the way, the fifth starters, I believe, this year in that spot, the Phillies are 5-20 in games that they have started, whether it's Taijuan Walker, Andrew Painter, or insert whoever else here. You keep running out 1-4 in every 5 games in that spot, you might not make the playoffs. But if you do, by the way, and that fifth starter, let's say he's good, guess who's the new fifth starter? Aaron Nola. Get in the bullpen, buddy. Wait for an 18-inning game. I would be way more comfortable if they brought in somebody to be the quote-unquote number 5, and then he was really good, or at least serviceable, because Aaron Nola has not been serviceable. ERA of 6 last year, it's 5.68 so far this year.
You definitely don't trust him in the postseason, and so you can get... I would say the fifth starter woes have definitely taken the heat off of Nola a little bit, which is kind of remarkable. But it doesn't take away from the fact that you actually are concerned if he has to start a postseason game.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me go through this, because I have the stats for the year pulled up, and there's guys I'm looking at like Orion Kerkering, who has a 2.37 ERA coming into tonight, and yet I don't feel good when he's on the mound. I'm going to give you a name. You tell me, do you trust this person in the playoffs at all? At all, okay? Johan Duran, obviously, yes.
Yes.
Tim Mesa, you feel good with him on the mound in the playoffs? Orion Kerkering.
Maybe like 50% of the time. It's like let's just do a range because I'm just gonna say no for just about everybody.
Yeah.
If
Okay.
not everybody. On a scale of 1 to 10, my trust of Orion Kerkering is about a 5.
Okay, that might be the high water mark for the
It might
non-Duran
be.
part of this
It
bullpen.
might be.
Jose
I'll go back
Alvarado.
and say Mesa is in that like 4 range.
Mesa's in the 4 range. Jose Alvarado, who, by the way, I give you a lot of credit for. Earlier in the season, we had an episode where I was like, give me your level of concern on various players. And you were sounding all the alarms on Jose Alvarado, and you have been proven to be 1,000% correct. Negative 0.6 WAR, 6.62 ERA. You want him on the mound in October?
Not in the slightest.
How about Jonathan Bolin?
So I do think Bolin is turning into their 8th inning guy. I would much rather him not be the 8th inning guy and be like the 6th, 7th inning guy. So they need that somebody in between Bolin and Duran. But of the non-Duran players, he's the highest. I'll give him like a 7.
Which is crazy that we've gotten to this point where Jonathan Bolin is the most trusted member. You don't even have to give me numbers for the rest of these guys. I'm just going to throw them out there just as an illustration of how fucked we are. Chase Sugart, 4.65 ERA. Tanner Banks at 7.14. Kyle Backus, 5.87. Seth Johnson, 6.14. Max Lazar, 5.63. Zach Pop, 3.68, which is basically, Mariano Rivera in this bullpen.
I mean, just about all of those have been up and down multiple times this year.
Yeah.
To the point, I mean, that they're just on the 40 man, and they can be options, so they are optioned, and they're back up and down when somebody's hot and somebody's cold.
Last activity. I'm gonna give you 5 bullpen pieces. You have to guess who has the lowest ERA this season. You ready? Jose Alvarado, Tanner Banks, Kyle Backus, Seth Johnson, and Garrett Stubbs.
Stubbs. Yeah.
Garrett Stubbs at 540. We are in a lot of trouble. That being said, like I say, vibes could be really, really good if they take, 4 out of the next 6 against the Dodgers and Yankees. Give me a prediction for the last 6 games of this homestand. And you don't have to even tell me who, but when we meet again next week, will the Phillies have made a deal? Will there be something for us to talk about? Will there have been a trade? Give me those 2 things. Next 6 games, and will they make a deal in the next week?
Next 6 games, highly dependent on if they truly skip the 5th starter, which would be the Saturday game. We would find out if Sanchez is pitching or if again. I think they will go. I think they're going to go 3-3. I just haven't decided in which format, which team they take to a 3 and which team they don't. But I will say I do not think they will make a move prior to the end of this week. I think it's all going to come down to the wire. The last 3-ish days is when things will start getting heating up, and there's no doubt in my mind that they'll make moves. It's just a matter of how many and how significant. I'm worried that they're not going to go significant enough to get most of the fan base excited, but sometimes the smaller pieces are all you need.
That's very true. Winning cures all, and this whole thing could have been avoided if they had put a little more urgency into the rotation in the offseason. We talked ad nauseum about how the plan to go into the season with Andrew Painter to be your 5th starter with not even thinking about an innings limitation or anything like that. It seemed short-sighted. Now those chickens are coming home to roost. Dave Dombrowski has to make a move. He's got to do something here because, not that it should just be about getting the fan base excited. You should make your team better, and if they win, the fan base will get excited. But boy, do I feel that momentum from earlier in the season starting to slip. I hope that I'm wrong. I hope that they take 2 out of 3 in each of these next couple series, and we have something really positive to talk about next week. I just think the next 10 to 12 days are going to be really, really big for the Phillies, and I'm a little bit concerned, to be honest with you.
I agree with you on that. I think I mean, this season will be made or broken based on how they treat the trade deadline. I'll leave you with this one last All-Star game tidbit. The last time the All-Star game losing pitcher was a Philly was 2008. We won the World Series.
No kidding. Who was that? Hamels?
That was a Brad Lidge on that walk-off sac fly at Yankee Stadium.
He was Mr. Perfect, except for the All-Star game.
Chris Sanchez's inning with 3 runs allowed does not go for naught.
All right. Well, from your lips to God's ears, the Phillies just went up 8-3. So the vibes are already changing from the beginning of this podcast to the end. Big home run for Trey Turner, his second of the game. I take back everything I said a few minutes ago. I'm now very excited about this team. Only bright skies and sunshine ahead. Hopefully. If not, we'll be back here to discuss it next week.
Well, you're in LA, so that makes sense.
Exactly. Thanks as always for watching. If you're listening to this on Spotify, make sure you drop us a review on there. We should be on Apple Podcasts very soon. I got to figure out what's going on there. They're weird, but we're on Spotify now. We're on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. And then we will see you next time on the Specific Jawns podcast. Go Phils.
Go Phils.